In the 1970s, television was a window into a world of fun, romance, and new possibilities. For millions, a show called The Dating Game was the epitome of that era's hopeful spirit. A young, confident bachelor sat behind a wall, charming a trio of eligible bachelorettes with wit and a seemingly harmless sense of humor. He was a photographer, an artist, and a self-proclaimed free spirit of the time. His name was Rodney Alcala. He won the date, but the date never happened. The bachelorette, a woman named Cheryl Bradshaw, later said she found him creepy and refused to go out with him. It was a fleeting moment of intuition that may have saved her life, because the man she rejected was not just a contestant on a game show. He was a convicted rapist, a torturer, and a serial killer, a predator who, for 4 decades, evaded justice, leaving a trail of unimaginable pain in his wake. This is the story of how Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer, used a mask of charisma and artistic talent to hide in plain sight while the authorities struggled to keep up with his brutal spree. Rodney Alcala was born in San Antonio, Texas, in 1943. His childhood was marked by instability. His father left the family, and his mother, Anna Maria, was left to raise him and his sisters alone. Seeking a fresh start, she moved the family to Los Angeles when Rodney was around 12 years old. The youthful Alcala showed early signs of his turbulent personality. At 17, he joined the United States Army, but his military career was short-lived. In 1964, he received a medical discharge after being diagnosed with a severe antisocial personality disorder. Out of the Army, Alcala, always intelligent and possessing a keen eye for aesthetics, enrolled at UCLA's School of Fine Arts, where he earned his bachelor's degree in 1968. It was the same year that his true nature began to show its terrifying face. In the summer of 1968, Alcala's first known crime took place. His victim was 8-year-old Tali Shapiro. On her way to school, she was lured into Alcala's car. A nearby motorist witnessed the abduction and, with a chilling sense of intuition, followed the car and contacted the police. Alcala took Tali back to his apartment, where he committed a heinous attack. When the police arrived, they found the apartment door locked. After forcing their way in, they discovered Tali, barely alive. The officers, believing her to be dead, began searching the apartment for her assailant. But as they did, a vigilant officer noticed a faint struggle for breath. All attention shifted to saving Tali's life. In the chaos, Rodney Alcala managed to slip out a back door and vanish into the city. The search of his apartment revealed a disturbing collection of photographs, many of young girls. Police now had a name, a face, and a connection to UCLA. He was put on the FBI's most wanted list. But Alcala was already a ghost. He fled to New York, where he adopted the alias John Berger and enrolled in NYU Film School. For 3 years, he lived a double life. By day, he was a groovy film student and a budding amateur photographer, a persona that allowed him to move freely through New York's social scene. By summer, he worked at an all-girls drama camp in New Hampshire, a chilling proximity to potential victims. He was hiding in plain sight. In 1971, his luck finally ran out. 2 girls at the summer camp recognized his face on a wanted poster at a local post office. They notified the police, and Alcala was finally arrested, 3 years after his first known crime. Alcala was extradited to Los Angeles to face charges of rape, kidnapping, assault, and attempted murder. But the prosecutor's case had a critical flaw. Tali Shapiro and her family had returned to Mexico. Without their primary witness, the prosecution's case was weakened. In a controversial move that would have tragic consequences, prosecutors offered Alcala a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to child molestation, and the other charges were dropped. He was sentenced to 1 year to life, a sentence that was part of a now-defunct, indeterminate sentencing program. Under this program, a parole board, not a judge, decided when an offender was rehabilitated enough to be released. Alcala's intelligence and natural charm proved to be his most dangerous weapon. He easily convinced the board that he was reformed, and in less than 3 years, he was back on the streets. He was sent back to prison for a brief period after a parole violation but was paroled again in 1977. Freed from prison, Alcala returned to Los Angeles and secured a job as a typesetter for the Los Angeles Times. But his violent urges had not been suppressed. He quickly resumed his murderous spree, preying on women in their late teens and 20s. In November 1977, he targeted Jill Barkham, an 18-year-old who had recently moved to California. Her body was found in the foothills near Hollywood. The following month, in December 1977, 27-year-old nurse Georgia Wixted was murdered in her Malibu apartment. In June 1979, the spree continued with the death of Charlotte Lamb, a 33-year-old legal secretary. Just weeks later, 21-year-old Jill Parento was murdered in her Burbank apartment. Investigators found Alcala's blood at the scene, a key piece of evidence that would link him to the crime. While he was charged, the case was later dismissed, allowing him to continue his campaign of terror. His final known victim in this spree was 12-year-old Robin Samsoe. On June 20, 1979, Robin and a friend were at Huntington Beach. Alcala, using his photography hobby as a pretense, approached the girls and asked them to pose for pictures. A neighbor, suspicious of his behavior, intervened, and the girls left. Later that day, Robin rode her bike to an afternoon dance class. She never made it. Alcala kidnapped and murdered her. Her skeletal remains were discovered weeks later in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains. With Robin Samsoe's case, however, the trail of terror was finally about to end. The investigation into Robin Samsoe's disappearance led detectives to a storage locker Alcala had rented in Seattle. Inside, police made a stunning discovery: a trove of hundreds of photographs of young women and girls. They also found a bag containing personal items, including a pair of earrings. Robin Samsoe's mother identified them as a pair her daughter had owned. A solid lead finally emerged. Multiple witnesses from the beach that day also identified Alcala as the man with the camera. Following a meticulous investigation, Alcala was charged, tried, and convicted for Robin Samsoe's murder in 1980. He was sentenced to death. But this was not the end of the story. The legal battle was just beginning. The California Supreme Court overturned his conviction, citing legal errors. He was tried again in 1986, convicted again, and once more sentenced to death. But once again, his conviction was overturned by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The justice system seemed to be failing at every turn. After 2 trials and 2 death sentences, Rodney Alcala remained on death row, but a new trial was pending. The families of his victims watched in agony, knowing that with each legal battle, a door to freedom seemed to be opening for the man who took their loved ones. By the time of his 3rd trial for Robin Samsoe's murder, the world of forensic science had changed dramatically. DNA evidence, a powerful new tool, could now link perpetrators to cold cases with unprecedented accuracy. While Alcala was awaiting his 3rd trial, DNA collected from the scenes of the Los Angeles murders of Jill Barkham, Georgia Wixted, and Charlotte Lamb was tested. It was a match. Rodney Alcala was now linked to all 4 Los Angeles murders, including the Jill Parento case that had previously been dismissed. In a bizarre and unprecedented turn of events, Alcala chose to represent himself during his 3rd trial. He argued his own defense, fixating on the Robin Samsoe case and largely ignoring the 4 other murder charges. In a surreal moment in the courtroom, he took the stand and questioned himself in the 3rd person, switching tones as he went from prosecutor to defendant. On February 25, 2010, after decades of evasion, a jury found Rodney Alcala guilty of all 5 counts of capital murder, 1 count of kidnapping, and 4 counts of rape. During the penalty phase, in a final act of grotesque defiance, he played a song for the jury in an attempt to sway them from the death penalty. It was a final, chilling act from a man who used a mask of normalcy to inflict so much pain. The jury, unswayed, quickly recommended the death penalty. The judge agreed. The conviction of Rodney Alcala did not end the search for justice. Immediately after his conviction, the Huntington Beach Police Department released 120 of the photographs found in his storage locker. They suspected Alcala had more victims, and they asked the public for help in identifying the faces. The response was immediate. Since then, several of the unknown faces have been identified, and 2 cold cases in New York were also linked to Alcala through DNA. TWA flight attendant Cornelia Michael Crilly was murdered in 1971, while Alcala was attending NYU. Ciro's nightclub heiress Ellen Jane Hover was murdered in 1977 during a time Alcala had permission to visit family in New York. The true scope of his crimes may never be fully known. Rodney Alcala, the dating game killer, spent his final years on death row. His story is a chilling reminder of how a charming exterior can conceal a horrifying truth. He was a master manipulator who exploited weaknesses in the justice system and the naivety of those around him to continue his campaign of terror. But in the end, justice, driven by tireless investigators, advancements in forensic science, and the enduring hope of the victims' families, finally prevailed. His reign of terror came to a quiet end not through execution, but through the passage of time. Rodney Alcala died of natural causes on July 24, 2021, at the age of 77, at a hospital near the California State Prison in Corcoran. The man who had evaded justice for decades and tormented so many lives was gone. The story of Rodney Alcala is a dark chapter in the history of crime, but it is also a testament to the power of perseverance in the face of unimaginable evil. It reminds us that for the victims and their families, the pursuit of truth and accountability never truly ends.